Most people in life are looking for how to make a life worth living and retirement worth having. When I sit outside of a Meijer gas station, where I typically pick up some Airvazone teas, which I'm practically addicted to because I like the reaction that how it handles in my cellular health, that I'm literally looking at today's life. Today's life was sort of interesting. I mean, I was sitting minding my own business, and my buddy Josh drove by, and I said, Josh, I'm not using this plastic container anymore, so it might help you to keep the stuff and your belongings from your mom's estate together a little bit better. And Josh is another fellow who is sort of living in the life of outdoor weather. And when I offered it to him, he was grateful for it. He literally said, thank you. And then I provided him my cushy blanket because I realized he had a very pathetic blanket, and I was worried about him against the concrete. And I have a couple other blankets stashed away, and I'm okay without that. I can sleep on concrete without too much problem. It's hard overnight because concrete can tend to suck your juices out of your body, and then you wake up sort of achy, but that's okay. I'm old enough to deal with the aches and pains of life. But in this moment of time, what was sort of fascinating is that later on Josh plied by me, and he came by, and I just said, hey man, you got any food on you? Because I was sort of hungry, and I was really struggling with my headache, and I hadn't made a sale yet today, and I just was like, maybe Josh will help me. So he walked over, and he plied me with $10. Now, that was pretty generous and kind for a man who's living in the streets like me, and of course they sort of smelled like CBD type oils and things, and that's alright, I get over that, but because people do have their addictions to smoking and whatnot. But I guess my point was sort of the interesting aspect of the blessing that occurred. He received a blessing from some loving person who gave him a generous tip, I guess. When he was walking in the streets, someone drove up and decided to ply him with, I guess, more than $10, and when he was seeing that I hadn't eaten yet, he gave me $10 out of the large amount that he received, which is really loving and kind and sort of a surprise. And with that money, I went to my faithful, loyal place where I always take any money I ever receive. And the reason I do that is because when I was really in struggle, that loving place, those loving employees, paid for my meals. And they took really good care of me. So then here's how the Lord works. I went into my favorite little place where I like to get hamburgers or cheeseburgers, and I said I would like 3 cheeseburgers. Now there's an amazing power of 3, and I'm looking and waiting for my 3 to come back into my life, but that's okay. I'm waiting for my loving wife to get here, it's true, but that's alright too. But what I mean is that I took that money and I went to the place that I normally go, and what she ended up doing was not only giving me the food that I requested and paid for, but then she lovingly gave me some food that was about to, I guess, time out. And as a part of that, what ended up happening was that I was able to come back to Josh, who applied by me a little later in the day, and give him part of that meal. Because I don't always like to eat chicken all the time, although I do use it to get rid of headaches, and ramen really does a great job if you've got a place to cook it and prepare it, and especially if you're out camping and have those opportunities to have one of those Bunsen burners like we used to use within Japan when we make sukiyaki and other things at home. But what I was saying was that the Lord blessed me. The Lord blessed me with some conversation with another homeless man who's much younger than me, and then I decided that I wasn't going to need certain things anymore because of how life is kind of shifting for me and the way that the Lord has guided me. And so I provided that to him. And then a little later, he provided me some money. And then I went and used that money in a loving way for my own cellular health. And then the lady at that store, the manager, who's sort of a uproar and sort of a loud gal, ended up putting things in my bag that was a lot more than I needed for my own food intake. And so what I was able to do was to give part of that food back to Josh. And I thought, wow, isn't God amazing how he does things? And then as I got further down in the bag, I found that there were some chocolate chip cookies in there, which I might have been tempted to eat because I can eat them, but I also know how bad it can be for me if I eat them because I'm allergic, and that's one of my major allergens, along with peanut butter and some other peanut oils and things like this. But I was able to then give those cookies to a lady who's always kind to me at one of the places that I like to shop, because I obviously can't eat them, and my loving spouse and future bride, etc., is not here with me to enjoy those and enjoy the chocolate-aholic aspect of her life, but I'm waiting for her. I'm still lovingly, patiently waiting for her to get a clue about how God works through me and through you. The interesting part about the story is how God blesses people. So I was able to be a blessing to Josh this morning by giving him a better blanket to sleep on, because God said, you are going, and told me yesterday, you are going to give that blanket, that plush blanket, once we air it out from the rain, back to Josh. And not back to Josh, because I actually found it in a trash can and aired it out and dried it out in the sun and did all those things you learn from Boy Scouts, and literally I gave it to him along with the plastic bin that I don't really need, and I just emptied that out and put things in my other bin because I want to be as consolidated as possible. I want to get back to my efficient self, and I do what the Lord advises me to. And then God blessed me because Josh had a little extra money and he provided to me, and I was able to eat. And you get the story that then the lady at the shop where I regularly shop out of my loyalty for how they've been kind to me literally blessed me with some extra food. And I told her I really can't eat all this, and I asked her permission. I said, would it be all right for me to give this to another homeless person? And she said, of course. And so I did. And I literally took that food, gave part of it back to Josh, who likes nuggets and loves barbecue sauce, and accepted the french fries, although sadly some of them fell out because the wind blew it over, but that's okay. He didn't mind. And isn't that amazing how one little aspect of $3 could produce a meal for 2 people because of the loving kindness of the Lord working through people? And I guess that's the point of my story, that in my life, despite going through homelessness because of the hands of illegal people in the land, of immoral people who thought they had the right to abuse my life, to attack my life, to seduce my life, or whatever it might be that you might think of my life as you occasionally listen to me and occasionally hear my rants and occasionally consider the laws that violate our rights and also protect our rights in the land, that in truth we must always be with the Lord. You see, when we're with the Lord, people do loving, kind things. But what often happens when people want to do loving, kind things is a satanic force will hit someone nearby to them. And when they get hit by someone nearby to them, that satanic force starts to manipulate that friend, that father, that mother, that child, that whoever who has influence on that individual, and gets them to not do the loving, kind thing that the Lord is suggesting they do. And that then creates the problems that we have, me and you, in this world. You see, you have to let people have relationships one-on-one. And part of my M2M project is a celebration of 2 life forces that I long to know. But it's also the celebration of the woman's life that I love, And when I changed my name to the new 4M, it's to handle the 4 M's of my life, which I will talk about in another audio cast. But what I mean is that when a man's in love, he will put his entire life on the line for the one he loves. He will defend them, he will raise them up, he will honor them, he will care for them, he will situate them, he will correct them, he will rebuke them, and he will say, I am the one who loves you like this. And the love of Jesus is what flows through people. It's like the Force in Star Wars. It flows through people, it flows around people, and the angels around us can be profoundly educational if we only shut up long enough to listen to them. Thanks for listening.